I'm Dr. Mel. Welcome to another episode of Dr. Mel's Message. Today's author is Jerry Huerta, and although he has a writing partner, Marcel Huerta, that partner won't be with us, but Jerry is here, and we're talking about his book, Thy Kingdom Come. Welcome, Jerry. How are you?
Thank you, Dr. Mel. I'm fine. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Tell me, first of all, a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your writing partner.
Well, I'm a lay person. I want to emphasize that. I don't have a doctorate or any scholastic endeavors, but I do have like 30 or 40 years of studying the scriptures in depth, and through some inspiration and my studying, I came to greater understanding of certain issues in reference to biblical prophecy, and that was a result was my book, Thy Kingdom Come, reevaluating the historicist interpretation of the Revelation.
Okay, now your writing partner, how is he or she related to you?
Oh, she's my wife.
So y'all wrote this together.
We bounced these ideas off our heads, and she did most of the editing, so she's in the book too.
Well, perfect. I love a writing team there. Now, your book, Thy Kingdom Come, reevaluating the historical interpretation of the Revelation. So just that title alone, is it safe to say that the book is a discussion on the book of Revelation?
Yes, it is. Yes, it's specifically the historicist perception of the book of Revelation. There are other schools of thought out there like preterism and futurism, but mine is based on the historicist school of thought, how they perceive it.
All right. Well, if everyone sit tight, I want to show you the book trailer for Thy Kingdom Come. Hold tight.
Thy Kingdom Come by Marcel and Jerry Huerta is a revealing and deeply meaningful work that speaks directly to what it means to be a person of faith in our time. By bringing together years of focused and intense study of the book of Revelation, it intricately reworks the typical historicist's interpretation by bringing it right up to date for the modern world. It's a renovation rather than a demolition, which is designed to bring everyone who reads it closer together as they go in search of depth and meaning in their lives. A truly inspirational approach to connecting people that must be personally experienced to be believed. Order your copy from Amazon today and embark on a personal journey of discovery and enlightenment unlike any other.
All right, Jerry, let me ask you this. Why the book of Revelations?
Well, the book of Revelation, particularly in reference to the historicist school of thought, is where I found through inspiration that the traditional point of view was improperly structured. Their overuse of recapitulation has caused them to place the seals, trumpets, and the vials in past events. They tried to reconcile them to past historical events, but when it's properly structured, they are events that are more closer to our time. That was the inspiration that led us to write about this historicist school of thought, and particularly the book of Revelation.
Can you give me a specific example?
Yes, the traditional historicist point of view is like I don't know if anybody's read the Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut, who is a story about a man who travels in the future. And the narration is constantly broken up. It's not a linear narration. It's constantly going from one point in the future, back to the past, back to the future, present time. And that's basically how the traditionalists look at the book of Revelation. My book maintains a linear narration through half the book, and then it does repeat from the time of Christ again, once again going off into the return of Christ. So my book and my interpretation pretty much straightens out what the traditional historicists structure, how they've structured the book and how it's to be interpreted.
Wow. What kind of feedback do you get from people that read your book?
I've done some promotions in Facebook, on Google. I'm getting a lot of feedback where people are beginning to see what I'm saying, and it's positive feedback. Of course, there's always pushback also because I'm dealing against traditionalists and like in any field, trying to bring something that's a greater understanding there's always some tension that's dealt with.
Well, if you don't have that, then you haven't done a good job with your book, because you need that, and we all do. The different,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, we all do need that. Now, you talk about, I think, in your book, the prophecies and the apocalyptic forces of the seven seals, correct?
Right.
Well, historically, what is that, and what is the significance of that?
Well, placing them in the proper place in history, which would be the last church. There's 7 churches in the book of Revelations that represent 7 eras in the Christian history of the Christian church. The last one is the Laodicean church, which is rebuked by God for being lukewarm. They think they're rich and increased with goods. And that talks about a lot about commerce, economy. The economy of the church is chastised by God. Their concerns are more materialistic. And as far as the churches go, I have no pushback to that. To the understanding that those are the times that we are living in. But the seals, in particular, are judgments upon the church for that condition, that Laodicean condition, and they exemplify the Protestant movement in particular rising and creating a secular society in which there's a lot of injustices that occurred because of that. The Industrial Revolution is pretty well documented for creating very harsh conditions for the initial labor conditions at its onset, and financial problems are still occurring today because of that commerce that was built up and secularized. Now, the church had a lot to do with how commerce was run before that time, and particularly the Protestants themselves. They held a view that the church should be involved with the economy and commerce in your Protestant nations. But there was a dissident movement that occurred in which to change that and become a secularized society and get the church out of the mostly running society at all. And this is where we're at today. And the problems that we're having today with the secularization of society is what is very important, because that's what we're dealing with today, the ramifications of that.
Wow. I mean, when you look at it, a lot of people, they will view the Bible, and there's several types of people, actually. One that will take the Bible and it is the truth, it is the gospel, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And then you have those people that go, oh, it's a nice historical account, but it was written by man, not by God. And then there are those people that just say it's nothing but a book and it's all fiction. How do you approach an audience like that? Because with this,
well, my book is really isn't geared to the people who are unbelievers to begin with. My book is geared to the remnant of the church, and opening up their eyes to that narration, the symbolism of those 4 horsemen, in particular of the 7 seals, really reflect what happened with the rise of Protestantism. They were the ones that changed the economies of the world and caused a lot of these injustices. Unwittingly, they didn't realize what were going to be the ramifications of them altering and secularizing everything in society. The fact that they're the ones that went through society and changed these things, secularized the world, is an example of the first horseman that goes forth conquering and to conquer. That's the first horseman. He rides a white horse, indicative of something pure. The church was supposed to represent something pure, but going forth conquering to conquer, as the Protestants did, led to the next thing, which was their changing the economy, which led to the competition between the Protestant states for the natural resources of the world, which created all this upheaval in our contemporary society, in modernity, with these 2 world wars and all these economic upheavals in our societies.
Well, yeah, you're talking right now, in just present day time, the economic sanctions on different countries by each other, number one. But then when you look at just the oil industry in itself, that plays key into this economy that you're talking about. Is that correct?
Absolutely, and the irony is well, it's not ironic. It's so clear to see that this white horse that goes forth to conquering, we're the Protestants, because by their actions, then they create this market-driven society. That's what the Laodicean church is rich and increased with goods and has need of nothing, and that's one of their condemnations by God. That's what they did to change society, and without unwittingly caused then the upheaval of this world into the situations that we are in today. All the things that the Protestants did with the kings of the earth to alter our commerce today, we're living those ramifications of it. And the narration and symbolism I reveal in the book, it's all in the book to expose that the rise of Protestantism is the running forth of those 4 horsemen in the apocalypse.
Wow. Now, for those of you that may just be joining us, I'm having a very interesting conversation with Jerry Huerta, who is one of the authors of Thy Kingdom Come. And we're talking about the book of Revelations and how the prophecy and what actually happened back then is directly influencing and impacting our economic society today. Jerry, what would you hope somebody gets out of this book when they read it?
Well, like I said, it is to the remnant church.
Define remnant.
I would hope that they garner from it the times that we're living in specifically, and what would God have us do today, in particular to the fact that we are living in these times, and we've all pretty much fallen away. There is a falling away that's predicted in the New Testament. It's not just in the book of Revelation. There's a great falling away that's predicted. We are in those times, and and if we repent, God will spare us of these events coming up and seal us and bring us through these events. I do believe we're on the cusp right now of God holding back those forwards and preparing his people right now. And I think that's what my book brings forth.
Wow. So if anybody has been interested in the book of Revelations and want just to really get in depth to it and look at it from, basically how and why and what we are doing and living today, the book Thy Kingdom Come offers this to a particular reader. And you've spent, how many years do you think you really spent researching Revelations? I know you said earlier, a good 20 years, but it couldn't have all been just on Revelations, right?
No, but it was with prophecy from the very onset. As I started studying the Bible and debating people over the issues on many Christian forums, it usually was on eschatology, which is the study of the end times. Mm-hmm. So I have under my belt over 20 years of studying.
So it is on the end of times.
Yeah, right, yeah. And this is just a book is a culmination of that studying and debating people over the issues.
Well, I know that you said on the onset that you're a lay person, but that doesn't mean you can't be an expert on something, especially when you put this amount of time and energy into studying, the prophecies and in the, your book, Thy Kingdom Come. With this, which of the prophecies stands out most to you in the current living conditions that we're living in?
I think right now, everybody in the church, who's paying attention, who really cares about following God, mm-hmm. They're seeing we're entering some very difficult times right now. my book is trying to relate to them is why we're here. Why are we dealing with these difficult times, and what God would expect from us during these times? And certainly getting down on our knees and praying is one of them. I think that there is a reformation going on in the church, and I think they're all beginning to understand we have to get down on our knees and pray, because there's some scary things facing us today as members of the church. And I think the book addresses that, why we're in that condition, and that's who I'm addressing it to, and why I believe they will garner something from it.
Now, the book, Thy Kingdom Come, it's available in Kindle and paperback on Amazon, iUniverse, and Barnes & Noble. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
Any updates, possibility of it coming out as an Audible book?
Not at this time. I'm constantly working on promotions and deals, though. Somebody hasn't approached me as an audio book, but maybe that will come down the road, right?
All right. Just curious, because a lot of the books like this, I can see it doing absolutely incredible as an Audible book, is why I was asking. I can see the discourse being held in book clubs across America and things like that. So I commend you and your wife for writing such a, pardon the pun, revelation type of a book to bring about revelation, no pun intended there. But this book, especially now, I think people need to kind of sit back and investigate, what the prophecies are, and look at where we are as in humanity with the outcome of your book. So first of all, I want to thank Strat Advertising for bringing you to Dr. Mel's Message. They've been incredible over the past, bringing me fabulous authors, and you're just one of them. But I also want to thank you and your wife for writing this incredible book. What's next for you?
Well, I actually, I'm kind of in the middle of another book right now, follow up on this one here to give it more bearance, more footing. So I'm continuing to write. Yes, that's on the agenda.
Well, all right. So if people go to your website, which is historicist.net, they can find you, correct?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And you have a blog, so they can follow along on your blog. Tell me a little bit about what your blog's about.
The blog is, I take certain subject matters that's related to historicism, and also deal with the other schools of thought in exposing their fallacies, their inconsistencies, and I'm also exposing the fallacies in some of the inconsistencies with the historicist school of thought. And that's the whole point of my book, is to try to bring it up to date. There is a progressive revelation that's all God's always dealing with mankind, revealing him more and more about his prophecies. And it's time to learn more about the book of Revelation, as specifically how the historicists see it, because I do think they have the proper tools in interpreting it. And I do believe that I brought it up to date, and there's a better perspective on how I structure the book of Revelation, how it's supposed to be interpreted, understood, and the illumination about those four horsemen and reconciling them to our contemporary times, and particularly the rise of Protestantism. It's really uncanny how they fit all that imagery that's presented in dealing with those four horsemen.
Would you say that the book is more of a theology book, or is it more on discourse?
It's a theology book. It deals with the end times, eschatology. So right, yeah, there's. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, again, Jerry, I want to thank you so much for visiting with us today. And I encourage everyone to go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble and look up the book, Thy Kingdom Come, Reevaluating the Historicist Interpretation of Revelations. It's very, very interesting reading. And with a little bit of time, maybe you'll get some clarity too as the prophecies. Thank you again, Jerry, for coming aboard with us today.
Thank you, Dr. Mal.
Thy Kingdom Come by Marceau and Jerry Huerta is a revealing and deeply meaningful work that speaks directly to what it means to be a person of faith in our time. By bringing together years of focused and intense study of the book of Revelation, it intricately reworks the typical historicist's interpretation by bringing it right up to date for the modern world. It's a renovation rather than a demolition, which is designed to bring everyone who reads it closer together as they go in search of depth and meaning in their lives. A truly inspirational approach to connecting people that must be personally experienced to be believed. Order your copy from Amazon today and embark on a personal journey of discovery and enlightenment unlike any other.